Chapter 2. A Faint Hope Amidst the Stars. That night, sleep was a cruel tease for Arion. The hard-packed earth of his hut felt unforgiving. Beneath his thin mat, each bump and hollow was a painful reminder of Damon's brutal takedowns. His ribs ached with a dull throb, and the sting of humiliation lingered. It was a far worse wound than any physical bruise. With a frustrated sigh, he rose, padding silently to the neighbouring stable. He spread carefully gathered armfuls of fresh wet soil-scented straw under his woven mat, adding a pleasant change to the nice scent of midnight. Although the newfound softness was a small comfort when he lay back down, it wasn't pain that kept him awake as he looked through the gaps in the rickety roof at the star-filled sky. It was her, the girl in the purple chiton, her dark eyes, the subtle grace of her movements. The image of her was etched behind his eyelids. Was it awe? Or something deeper? Something unsettling and yet strangely exhilarating that stirred in his young chest. He couldn't name it, but he knew he desperately wanted to see her again. The cool, fresh breeze drifted through the openings, caressing Arion's face as he breathed it in deeply. This air, the quiet hum of the night, the distant stars, it all felt full of vast possibility. He watched the sky, waiting, until a faint, almost imperceptible blush of rose touched the eastern horizon, the promise of the sun's return. Suddenly, as the first light broke, Arion felt a rush of excitement and power, a lightness in his chest he hadn't known since yesterday morning, rose again. He sprang up, more excited than ever, and practically flew out of his hut. His stomach, always a demanding companion, reminded him of its emptiness, but his legs were already racing to Sander's workshop before his mind. A good meal and a talk with his master, that was what he needed. Among the familiar comfort scent of sawdust and fresh-cut wood, he burst into Sander's workshop. Sander, an old and kind man with eyes that held a lifetime of stories, looked up from his work with a gentle smile gracing his lips. "Arion, my boy, you're an early bird today." Arion, practically vibrating with pent-up feelings, began to devour the warm beef porridge with bread and dried fruit Sander offered. "Master, you won't believe what happened yesterday. At the practice, Damon, the kid who always despised me, was so cruel again. And then, after, I saw her, a princess, Master. She was just so beautiful. And then I couldn't sleep because I kept thinking about her. I want to see her again." He spoke in a rush, words tumbling out like a cascade, as if he were trying to catch up to the thoughts already swirling in his mind. Sander listened patiently, a thoughtful look on his face. When Arion finally paused, Sander stroked his chin. A princess, you say? And you want to see her again, eh?" He paused for a moment, then his eyes twinkled. "Perhaps you could write her a poem. A beautiful poem, Arion, and slip it into her room when no one is watching." Arion's face fell. "But Master, you know I don't know how to write," he blurted out, exactly as Sander had tried to get him to say. Sander smiled with a knowing glint in his eye. "That, my boy, is precisely why I have told you time and again to apply for the military schools. They will feed you well, teach you everything you need to become a fine man, a man who could stand at the same level as that girl, a man worthy of a princess." Arion's eyes widened at the thought, but then a shadow crossed his face. "What if she marries before then?" "Ah, that's why." Sander leaned forward conspiratorially. "I will help you write a poem this time. You will take it to her, telling her she must wait, that you will return in a few months, a man transformed. Also, I promise I will not let any family to take your princess as a bride for themselves," said Sander, happily, who had long secretly yearned for Arion to follow in his footsteps and become a great general like he once was, felt a pang in his heart at how quickly Arion believed him, that he could finish military school in just a few months, or that the girl would reciprocate his feelings with just a letter. Clearly, I must admonish the boy not to trust anyone there, thought himself sarcastically. It frustrated him that Arion, fiercely independent, always refused any help or money unless it was earned through work. This was why Sander had persistently tried to persuade Arion to attend these military schools. Even the slight consideration in Arion's eyes now filled Sander with a quiet joy. When Arion, his mind clearly turning the idea over, finally nodded, a wide grin split Sander's face. He slammed his hand down on the table with a resounding thud, startling Arion and causing a few pieces of porridge in the bowl to splash, along with Arion, who was flung slightly into the air. "Now go to your practice, Arion," Sander boomed, his enthusiasm uncontained. "I'll go to the announcements site and submit your application for you, and I will write your poem while you are gone. Tonight you will take it to her room. Then I will personally take you to the nearest war school, which is just a few days' journey from here." That morning at the practice, something was different. Damon's taunts still stung, his fists still landed. But for Arion, each blow seemed to ignite a strange fire within him. He was running faster, lifting heavier, and meeting Damon's charges with a fierce, almost joyful determination that surprised even his tormentor. The other boys, used to his quiet endurance, exchanged bewildered glances. Arion wasn't just taking the beating, he seemed to thrive on it, a wild glint in his eyes that spoke of a new, unyielding resolve. That night, Arion's heart pounded wildly in his chest. As he approached the large stone house, he saw the girl at her window. Taking some of the very slaury part of, but may people holden the majestic walls were swallowed by the twilight that deepened with its ascent. Although the thin crescent moon in the sky offered little light, the memory of the girl's face guided him. He had to reach the top floor. Scaling the railings and jumping into the courtyard was a daunting task, let alone climbing the cold, rough stone. On the stone wall, he found a series of narrow ledges and small carvings, barely wide enough for his hands and feet. Each upward movement was a test of strength and courage. The dark gaps between the stones seemed to swallow the light. A cool breeze whispered by his ears when he heard a faint rustle on the dusty ground below. He froze, pressing himself against the cold stones, his grip steadily weakening as a red-skirted guard, carrying a spear and a torch, passed beneath him, the guard's sandals softly grating on the gravel, without seeing Arion, who held his breath until the footsteps of the soldier had faded at the last moment. He then resumed his climb with aching muscles. Finally, he reached the balcony and let out a deep sigh of relief. Assured there was nothing but a soft glow inside, he slipped in, his bare feet making no sound on the floor. The air was rich with the scent of jasmine and a faint, sweet, sour aroma that he associated with her. The walls of the narrow passage leading to the girl's room were filled with relief sculptures depicting ancient heroes. When he opened the door and stepped inside, he found a rich room with a bed. Wow! What did you expect? A noble, of course, would have a bed. On a small table beside it, a stack of scrolls lay neatly arranged. With trembling hands, he placed the poem, rolled and tied with a thin string, noticeably on top of them. As he turned to leave, a creak from the hallway made him freeze. Footsteps. Panic seized him. He scrambled back to the window, fumbling with the latch. Just as he was about to swing his leg over the sill, a voice, sharp and clear, cut through the silence. "Who's there?" Arion froze, one leg out the window. He turned, his eyes locking with hers. She stood framed in the doorway, a candle held aloft, her dark eyes wide with surprise, then suspicion. She recognized him. "What happened, my lady Lyra?" A gruff voice called from downstairs, followed approaching footsteps leaving the stairs behind. "Guards! Guards! Run! There's someone in my room!" Lyra cried, her voice echoing through the silent house. A wave of hot blood, full of fear, flooded Arion, yet deep within, a strange exhilaration, fueled by the girl's image and closeness, gave him wings. He leaped from the window, landing softly on the sand below. As he sprang away like a cat, the guards' shouts faded behind him. Without looking back, he ran as he'd never run before. "This is what I get for listening to Sander," until his lungs burned and his legs ached, until he reached the familiar, comforting darkness of Sander's workshop. He was breathless, but a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. Tomorrow, he would embark on a very important journey.